Hello, how's it going? Today I am going to be talking about how to get a 90 plus in anatomy and physiology, so stay tuned. So in anatomy I got a low 90 and in physiology I got a high 90. I think it was like a 91 and a 97. Yeah, 91 and 97. In my first year anatomy and physiology courses, I want you to keep in mind that I also took kinesiology in high school, and we learned about the bones and like all the landmarks and stuff about the bones, so it made anatomy a lot easier. I did way better in physiology, however, because I took the class online and I just found it, like the testing and everything and the assignments, much easier than it was for anatomy. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing with you my best study tips, and I mean you can apply this to any course that has like a lot of memorization. If you're nursing like I am, you will know that a lot of your courses are going to require a lot of memorization, so these tips can help you even then. So I first want to start off with before you learn the material. Obviously, besides the organization and everything about, you know, making sure you know when your deadlines are and assignments and everything, I want to talk about readings. So readings in university can be very, very important for courses that are really heavy in knowledge, like anatomy and physiology, or even like pharmacology and like courses that you'll take further on. Doing your readings can help you so much. So if you do your readings, so I would recommend doing your readings before class, of course, and kind of making sense of the material. Some of it may be super unfamiliar and may not make so much sense to you currently, but I would totally recommend just reading it. And if there are like topics that you really don't know what it means or what it does, I would Google it. At this point, I wouldn't personally take notes on anything. That's just the way I work, but I go over it all and make sure I kind of have a basic understanding of it. And sometimes your textbook will have like discussion questions or review questions, and I'll definitely recommend going over those as well. So for your lecture, take your notes. Take the notes however you feel is best. Definitely take a look at keywords that your professor uses. You'll find that they'll use a lot of the same concepts that are in the textbook, but they'll use, like the textbook, say it's 30 pages, they'll condense it into like 15 pages that you really need to know. And those 15 pages is the knowledge that you really will need to know for your exams and for any of your testing or any of your assignments. So make sure you take a look at that specific grouped information that they put in the lecture. If you have a lab, I had an online lab for physiology and like an in-person lab for anatomy. Use those to your advantage. Don't spend them talking and just like goofing off and stuff. They actually can be so helpful for you to learn things. Go into your lab knowing what you're doing. Don't assume that you're going to learn a bunch of stuff there. Know what you learned in lecture, know what the readings are, know it really well. That way when you get to the lab time, which you don't have a lot of time in the lab, you're able to kind of apply that knowledge and see it and feel it. Like for example, in my anatomy lab, we were able to like see bones and see the landmarks and bones and like move them around and see what they actually look like instead of looking at pictures, and that was so helpful. And it was really helpful that I already knew what the bone was, so I wasn't looking at bone and being like, ha, bone, like don't know what it is. So definitely do that. So after your lecture, I would definitely recommend, obviously you probably have other courses and stuff, but the night that you finish your lecture, I would definitely go back and look at your notes, whether it's on PowerPoint or you wrote them out or you put them on like a Google Doc. I'll definitely go back and look at the notes and make sense of them. Sometimes reordering things or trying to figure out different wording or things that make sense to you, because when you're typing, sometimes your notes can turn out kind of funky. It'll also help give your brain an extra minute to review everything. I would definitely, so from the readings that you did before, I would kind of compare what you found from the readings and what you found from the lecture. So say your professor is going off on a tangent about, I really can't think of anything. Say they're going off on a tangent of like lymphocytes and why they're so important. Take down everything you can about lymphocytes from your textbook, because your textbook is going to go way more in depth than your professor probably will. And knowing that entire like textbook blurb will really help you further on. If you want to go a little further, you can redo your notes, like completely redo them or handwrite them. For me, what I always do after lectures or during that same week is I make Quizlet, like flashcards. I used to do flashcards in high school, but I found it took too long to actually write them out in university. So Quizlet is magical. I totally recommend using it. So definitely check that out. I found it really useful because you can make up your own questions about the different areas that you're learning about, and also it like doesn't just make them flashcards, it can make them into quizzes and it can make them into games. So you'll learn them through all these various ways of it's kind of like different games and different teaching methods. So you can go through each teaching method and make sure you know everything, and even in the process of you writing all those questions and writing it out, you're actually retaining a lot of information. So I would definitely recommend doing that. For when it comes for, especially for your tests or exams, do not wait till the night before to study. It really is impossible to learn everything in that short of period of time. Plus it makes you stressed, it makes your brain stressed. When you learn it, the stress response is not good on your brain. It can make you sick, and you don't want that, right? And you really won't retain that information. I would recommend going over the information as much as you can. For me, say I learned week 1 and 2. At the end of week 2, I would look at week 1 again. At the end of week 3, I'd look at week 1 and 2 again. At the end of week 4, 1, 2, and 3 again. And that way it just becomes second nature and you really know it. For anatomy and physiology especially, it's kind of one of those courses that builds off the first couple of lectures, especially for physiology, honestly. You'll learn about like the basic cells, you'll learn about like basic things going on in your body, and the further you go all the way into like week 12, if you have 12 weeks in a semester, you'll have like the most advanced knowledge. So it builds off each other each week. So the more you review the beginning weeks, the better it'll become and the easier it'll get progressively. And the easier it'll be when you have to recall it on a midterm exam or test or anything like that. Yeah, so I definitely also recommend writing down any questions other people had in the lecture, because sometimes those questions can come back and you can think about them, but you'll forget the answer. I am a very big fan of those discussion questions at in the textbook, if you have them, or even looking up questions on the subject, like on the internet, just so you can get like an example of what your test questions might be, and you kind of have some time to practice on the knowledge. I think it's really helpful, and it has helped me in my 2 years of nursing school so far. So definitely recommend it. Yeah. Honestly, it's just you need to stay organized and you need to stay on top of things. I know everybody says that to you, everybody says it in high school, and it is so easy to fall behind. But if you keep on top of things, especially for anatomy and physiology, you are going to do amazing. It's not that hard of a course once you kind of commit yourself to it and you start actually learning things instead of reading things just because you need to know it. Once you actually start learning it and start understanding why your body does all these things, it's pretty interesting and it'll help you. It'll really help you, especially if you're in nursing. You need that stuff all the way through. You cannot throw that out of your mind. Don't do it. Especially physiology, you need that. That is so important. But yeah, so that's all I really have. Yeah, I know it was kind of a short video, but I think it was pretty helpful, and it's all the things I kind of use to study for anatomy and physiology. So if you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Please subscribe. I really appreciate your subscription. Yeah. Comment down below if you are starting anatomy and physiology, or tips that you had when you did anatomy and physiology or other memorization based courses. I'm sure everybody will appreciate it. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. Bye.